League university in ways other schools probably couldn't. Number one, I think I'm just kind of used to the workload, which is good. So by senior year, I was definitely taking more advanced classes. Um, and I actually had the opportunity to take classes at Hunter College. So that was also interesting and definitely something that is an option if you're a Hunter student once you reach junior or senior year. The other thing I'll say is that like the thing that stands out to me the most from Hunter was the English curriculum because I think that I'm like a pretty good writer, which definitely made writing essays for college like very seamless and very intuitive. So I think that I was very well prepared in that way.
And you're a child of immigrants, right? Like your mom didn't go to Hunter, your dad didn't go to Hunter. I mean, you were really the first one, right, in your family.
Hmm. Yeah, both of my parents immigrated from Moldova. Many people don't know where that is. It's between Ukraine and Romania. And actually, like Francis and I, like our parents came from the same city.
So
So
everyone, this is quite interesting. Natalie and I could actually share a kidney. So it's possible that we're related. This is very, we did not know. But again, the mother brought Natalie to Kweller in 5th grade. So there's a chance if I ever need a kidney, because we are quite frankly from the same town and of Jewish descent. And I just want you to know there's a chance that we could share a kidney. So I'm just letting you know, Natalie, should I fall ill, you will be my first phone call. But with that being said, so your parents are immigrants and they didn't know anything about Hunter, right? Like you kind of just qualified with your ELA math scores, correct?
yeah, exactly. I got a letter, I think the summer, like after I finished 5th grade, saying that I was qualified to take the test. And I think my parents were always kind of academically involved. Like they were always pushing me to do like the best that I could in school. So they like read up, they did research. They said, "Oh wow, that's a prestigious school. Do you want to go there?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And
Coming from Rego Park, Queens, PS 174. So they were willing to send you to Manhattan to make this hour-long trek every single day. 11 years old, right? 12.
yeah, I started when I was 12 at Hunter. And again, like I think that it's great. It gives you a lot of, I think, perspective into how the city works. You definitely become a city kid. At the same time, though, like I think my train routes were um, like pretty straightforward. I think I only had to transfer one time, and it was like the express train. So um, if that's a concern to any parents, I don't think that it should be a concern. You learn to navigate the city pretty quickly. It's pretty intuitive, the MTA. So I definitely wouldn't take that as a deterrent to go to like what, in my opinion, is a great school.
So you took the Hunter test. We're going to get into the webinar in just a moment, but I just want to follow up. You took the exam, you got into Hunter, you went until 12th grade, and then you went to Kweller Prep for the college applications. And I'm very happy to share that you got into this really prestigious program. So what is this program that you're in after Hunter? What is this called?
It's called the Huntsman Program of Business and International Studies, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a dual degree program, so it's not just two majors. I'm having a bachelor's of science in economics with a focus in or a concentration in finance and management. And then my separate bachelor's of arts degree, it's under this broad category of international studies, but I have a focus on Russia and Eastern Europe, and I'm also minoring in Russian politics.
So, thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself. And if you could give advice to the students at Queller Prep, just about those who are, just with fear and with trepidation at the moment about the Hunter, about actually going to Hunter, the actual going to the school in the 7th grade. I mean, it's called Hunter College, high school. I mean, bad enough they put the word high school in, but the word college is in there. So if you could give any advice to families who are considering this as a school option, what would your advice and guidance be?
I would definitely say go for it because for several reasons. I think that the 7 through 12 structure, um, kind of allows you to pursue a more in-depth education, especially in the arts, which you wouldn't get from any other public school. So you do like learn music theory, you do learn about art history, which I will say has been a great payoff in terms of like talking to people, networking with people, and impressing people in the long run. And I think it's just general information, generally good information to have. The other thing I would say is that Hunter has its own unique curriculum. So while I know a lot of my peers in Stuyvesant and Bronx Science and other, like even more locally, Townsend Harris, a lot of them focus on AP classes and some even going as far to miss lunch entirely just to cram as many AP classes as possible. I don't think that that is necessary to have a great education. I think that the Hunter curriculum really does go more in depth. For example, we have our own like sort of history curriculum, and then without really studying any AP material, I got a 5 on the AP history exam just taking it independently because I think that our curriculum is extremely thorough. I think also like no matter where you go, like after I just wouldn't miss this opportunity because it really does open up a lot of pathways in the future. Like we have great alumni, and we have a lot of kind of opportunities within the city. Like for assignments, we go to museums and things, which I know is not very common in other schools. So for a public school, especially, like I think it is extremely in depth. You get to know a lot about the city you're in. You get to know about a lot of the history and the context of the world around you in ways that you wouldn't if you went to a school where it's like a very strict AP focused curriculum.
So I really want to just say thank you so much for this amazing opportunity and for hosting the webinar. And I also am going to momentarily just send you the link so that we can review all different stress reduction techniques and abilities that we need to know. I'm just curious, do you still use stress reduction techniques and abilities now? Like what you learned from these webinars, are you still practicing them now that you're in college? I mean, you're at the home stretch right now. So are you done with stress reduction techniques in your life?
Absolutely not. I will always be using them. Um, Even today, I had an accounting final. Uh, it was a final where we couldn't, it was taken via computer, and once you answer a question, you can't go back. So that is obviously stress inducing, but taking certain mindfulness techniques um, like taking a step back, taking a few deep breaths, maybe closing your eyes for a second or looking down for a second before continuing to take the test, I think helped me avoid silly mistakes. I think in general, just the mindset of, okay, I know what I know 5 minutes before the exam is probably a good way to get centered and to not freak out and lose points that way. And in general, I anticipate going into a very stressful field. I'm going to have a investment banking internship this summer where I know the hours are long. I know that like stress in the industry is high, but I think that a lot of mindfulness techniques that I learned even at a very young age, like sixth grade, taking the Hunter test, can help me stay focused.
So your plan is to just like be a billionaire, like you're done. Yes.
Hopefully, hopefully.
You know, I really have to adjust to this. Like the kids at Kweller, they become more successful than Kweller, and it's I don't know. I gotta say it's rough. Okay, here's what I want to do. Natalie, I sent you an email. If you could just open the link I sent you and share screen that link. And everyone, I want to take a moment just to remind all of you that no matter where you go to high school, you will shine. Someone like Natalie would have done stellar no matter where she would have gone to school. So let me go. Can you put the link on your screen? We're gonna go through these. Good.
uh, yeah, let me just, okay, I clicked the,
Link. And then if you could share screen that link. Good.
it's this one,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, just make it really large.
Okay.
So
Nothing.
everyone, I just want to remind you, no matter where you go, you're going to be superstar. Yeah, that's perfect. That's kind of the ridiculously large size I want. If you can go larger, that would be better. Larger, larger. Good. Okay, now we can scroll down.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so we have this.
Ah,
We have Natalie.
My skin got better since then. But yes, this is
Going.
my yeah.
Natalie has many fun accolades, and I put the cutest video of her ringing the Wall Street bell, which is probably embarrassing, but look at those braids. All right, let's keep going. Natalie Kweller. Let's keep going. More,
Okay.
more, more. Number one. So, number one, if you could just, Natalie, review this. You don't have to read all of it, but if you could review and just give your tips. It's really your tips that we're more interested in.
Yeah, so uh don't learn anything new the day before the test. I mean, if you happen to, then that's fine, but generally you shouldn't strive to do that. All of the preparation for the hunter test should be done well in advance. Once it's time for the hunter test, you should know what you're doing. What I find with students and also with myself, like taking the test, if you try to learn a new type of problem, because you're going to be so stressed the day of the test, it's probably just going to fly out of your mind. You're just wasting your time. You're making yourself nervous because, maybe something new isn't clicking. Maybe you're just not memorizing it fast enough. And you're getting caught up on like information that is ultimately less useful than just grounding yourself, than just remembering what you do know. Something that I actually learned from my business courses here, management courses here, is that people learn more, or in the workplace, certain behavior, good behavior is replicated the most when it's reinforced. A bad management technique would be to focus on flaws, on to focus on what someone doesn't know or what they're not doing versus what they're good at and what they are doing. And then that kind of correlates to performance. So that's just a separate thing that I know. But as a test taker and as a tutor, um, definitely focus on the essays that you wrote in the past. Try to replicate them, maybe. Try to take the good parts of what you wrote in the past and write them for the Hunter essay. If you know your strength is in reading, continue to do that. Don't get caught up on this, like a particular word you don't know. Just keep going through the test, keep going through the passage. While you shouldn't be overly confident in everything that you do, because maybe that's how you get silly mistakes, you should be confident enough to complete the test on time and to not spiral. Usually people, when they get a question wrong, they get multiple wrong in a row, not because they don't know the material, but because they get so worried that they just lose sight of the ultimate goal and they lose sight of the stuff they do know. So, yes, let's see. Saying to skim, not to cram. So I agree with that. Um, okay. Keep practicing the hunter real test. Yes, that should be done well in advance. Um, sorry, I'm just scrolling through a little bit to get to tip number 2. So number 2, print a hard copy of your admission ticket in addition to the following list of materials, such as 5 sharpened pencils, a high quality eraser, some snacks, and a small water bottle. So I think that all of this is great because it prevents you from wasting time, or maybe the tickets are digital now, but let's say your phone dies. Let's say someone else doesn't have a copy of the ticket. You can never go wrong with a hard copy of the ticket, because it would be terrible if you spent so many hours studying and then the day of, they can't verify whether or not you can go into the building. Like, that would genuinely be heartbreaking. Other things is, obviously have something to write with. There's no guarantee that someone hasn't a spare pencil. An eraser is always good. Um, as for the snacks, I wouldn't recommend eating during the test unless you feel, or your child feels as though they absolutely have to. That's where practice comes in. Practice taking the 3-hour long exam so that you have endurance to keep going, so that your hands aren't like covered in like salt or like grease or anything. And a small water bottle is also good, because if you're stressed, you need to take a deep breath, you're not really sure what to do, just drink a little bit and that's fine. As the tip says, don't overeat or overdrink before the test, because that can obviously also backfire if you need to use the bathroom in the middle of the test. That's like 10 minutes just gone. So that's not ideal. Yeah. Okay. Tip number 3, pack extra. So we're done with COVID, but you never know like what requirements can suddenly pop up. So bring some masks, bring some hand sanitizers, extra sharpened pencils, and all of those other stuff. You don't need to pull it out on your desk as you're taking the test clearly, but always good to have just in case. So, stress management tip number 4 is to listen to relaxing music throughout the week leading up to the test. So, just making sure that you are well rested and listening to calming music. I think that that is, different for everybody. What I like to do personally is if I'm studying something and I feel like I have to listen to music throughout the day, I listen to the same song just because like music and memory are sort of correlated. Maybe hearing something can bring up a memory, especially if you're studying new materials. But yeah, I for some people listening to the same song just a week straight could be kind of jarring. So if you're not a big music person, or if you find that that doesn't work for you or hadn't historically worked for you, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I would say with music, again, because it's kind of correlated to memory, could be a little bit dangerous. Um, Especially if you haven't studied to tests like this before. Generally, though, just find something that you could relax with so that you're not always constantly overworked. Um, Stress management tip number 5, honestly, maybe this should be higher up on the list. Definitely, like, minimize distractions. When you are going to bed or your child is going to bed, like, keep the phone in a separate room or put it on do not disturb. Sleep is the most important thing when it comes to memory consolidation or when it comes to just remembering things in general. Sleep is super important to make sure that you don't feel tired during the test. In fact, I'd even add on, make sure you wake up at the same time that you would for the Hunter test. If you're used to waking up at 8 a.m. and all of a sudden for this test, in order to make it on time, you need to wake up at 6, that could put you in a sleepy mood. Maybe you're not going to pay attention to the test as much. Make sure you have a solid, consistent sleep schedule. Um, what uh, the This tip goes on to say, like, to practice mindfulness. You guys could read it on your own time, but generally, I'd say it's a good skill to have. I use it more so for planning my day, just going through things, making sure all my priorities are straight. Um, yeah, but yeah, generally just being self-aware and having a clear mind. And I think that sleep definitely helps with that. Okay, so stress management tip number 6 is to arrive at the test center early. I 100% agree with that as well. You do not want to be stuck on a train, running late, being super scared, super nervous, because at that point, you're not focusing on the test. You spent so many hours preparing for this test, and then instead of thinking about what essay you're going to write, calming yourself, staying like centering yourself to stay focused on this 3 hour long exam, which is hard enough to take as like a 20 something year old. Just like imagine a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old taking a 3 hour long exam. But, it's hard enough to focus as is. But if you're running late on the train, it's going to be even worse. What would be even worse is arriving so late that they do not allow you to enter the building, which is, of course, just a giant loss. I also would not count on the city's trains or on the MTA to get you there on time. If you leave on the dot, definitely leave early. Um, I'd also add on when people stand in line. I remember a lot of my friends being there and a lot of my friends standing online and maybe wanting to talk. Um, my mom actually pulled me to the side and said, "No, no, like just stay by me. Just relax." And I, maybe in the moment I wanted to talk to my friends, but looking back, I do appreciate that because everyone was talking about how nervous they were, lying about like, "Oh, I didn't even prepare, but I'm so nervous." Things of that sort. Especially because a lot of my classmates were going to the test that would have stressed me out. So I think just staying calm, rereading my essays while I'm online, getting there nice and early, nice and settled, that's the best. Absolutely the best. Make sure that you do that. Um, oh yeah, there are also like very long lines to enter the school. So Yeah. Also keep that in mind. Make sure to bundle up if it's cold. It seems that it's going to be quite cold when I was online. It was actually snowing for a little bit, but yeah, just to keep that in mind. Okay. Stress management tip number seven. Oh, I see there's something in chat. Let me see if I missed something. Um, this I'm not sure about, the computer-based test. So, uh, that has been updated since I took the test. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
no, no, the hunter test is traditional paper pencil.
Okay,
Hunter
yeah.
test, the hunter test will be, no, hunter is a traditional test. It's just paper.
Mhm,
Will the essay, this is incorrect. The hunter test is traditional paper pencil. That's all it is. It's going to be a traditional paper pencil test. Go ahead.
mhm. Okay, that's good. That's good to clarify that. So, yeah. Stress management tip number seven is eat breakfast before the exam and a snack before you enter the exam room. Again, completely agree with this. This is important to keep your energy and your focus throughout the exam. If you don't eat breakfast, you think you're going to be fine. It's factoring in transportation, factoring in the length of the test. It's going to be like hour five of no food, and you're going to go crazy. Like, that is definitely not something you want to worry about. In addition to not being focused, your energy levels just are going to crash. So be sure to eat something for breakfast, maybe with slow burning carbs like a piece of toast. That'll keep your energy up. Nothing too sugary like, Lucky Charms and like those like pure sugar cereals. It's probably a bad idea. You're probably going to crash. Um, Conversely, for the snack before the exam, I find that this is something I found out when I was doing practice exams at Kweller, actually. Whenever I ate a banana or a fruit before a test, I actually did better. So, again, this is just my own personal experience. Maybe it works differently for different people, but maybe a fruit will give the necessary boost, at least at the start of the exam, to prevent you from losing focus and to keep your energy up. So, yeah. Here's a chart for brain foods. So, some examples of what you can eat. Seeds are also always good. Brown rice is also always good. Green tea, I like green tea. It's a little bit caffeinated, just as a disclaimer. Oh, another disclaimer is if you don't drink coffee, don't start now. Or if your child doesn't drink coffee, don't do it on the day of the exam. There should be nothing new happening on the day of the exam, and that includes diet. It's better just to set up a sleeping schedule the week leading up to the exam so that you are used to waking up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., however long you need to get to the test early. It's better to do that than to just
I wanna just tell everyone, I actually know someone who surprised me and ate he had energy drink the morning of the bar exam. We were, obviously sitting together, and I was so surprised. So he completely crashed about an hour into the test, and I'm sad to tell you he didn't do well. But this was I don't know what on earth made him decide. I think he went to 7-Eleven and had an energy drink that morning. I mean, and it's not even necessary because you had adrenaline running anyway. There was no need for an energy drink that morning. But that is it. I do want to share that with you. I happen to know someone who did that. He had brand new food the morning of a big test. It was a big mistake. That's it. Back on mute.
Mhm, yeah. They also say the same thing for, like, weddings or something, like, don't do anything new to your or any party, like, don't do anything new to your hair, nothing new to your diet, like, no, stay consistent. Same goes for the hunter test, any high stakes, like, sort of event, just stick to what you know. Um, okay. Stress management tip number 8, pack a lucky charm. So this obviously varies by family, what your lucky charm is, if you have something like that, if your child, like, believes in anything like that. Um, but, maybe it'll give, like, a sense of optimism and comfort during the exam. I think I packed a lucky charm. I don't know if it was so much mine as much as my mom was like, "Here, like, I found this, take it." And I was like, "Okay." So, I was hoping. Same thing I think for when I got my college admissions results, I just happened to find a charm or something. Someone was handing it out on the subway. I was like, okay, I'll take it. And, that day I found out I got into Penn. So, yeah, it's just something that will give you peace of mind, or it'll give your child peace of mind, because the last thing you want is them freaking out. And I don't think it'll make them overly confident. Like, the charm is not going to do the test for them, but generally I would say it's a good idea. Um, yeah. So it's an example of a bracelet, but maybe there's something more specific to your child or your family that you could pack. So stress management tip number 9 is write an encouraging letter. So this could be a letter, this could be a little note, this could just be telling your child the day of or the day before the exam that you're proud of them, that you see how hard they've worked. And no matter the outcome of the test, if they get in or they don't get in, then you see how much they progressed, you see how much they've learned, and you could tell that they're trying. Some people might be under the misconception that if they tell their child that, then their child would get lazy. I disagree wholeheartedly, because they worked so hard for it anyway. They might as well take and pass the exam. They also want to get into Hunter. That's why they're here. That's why they're trying. Um, I remember when I was taking the exam, there was a girl in my room who burst into tears just in the middle of the exam. I looked up for a second. I was like, it's not my problem, and went back to taking the exam just because there's nothing I could do. Like, this was a person who I knew as my friend, and there were adults to kind of take care of the situation. I can't control that. I could only control my test. We both
And I
ended up.
and I just want to take. Oh, go ahead. Tell me when you're done, because I want to interrupt. Also, go ahead.
Yeah, so we both ended up getting into Hunter. We became friends, like closer friends. And she told me that the reason why she started crying in the middle of the exam is because her sibling had gone to Hunter, and she just like suddenly became overwhelmed with worry of what would happen if she didn't get in, how disappointed her parents would be. And this is real. Like, this is what she told me pretty much verbatim. So when you speak to your child, when you tell them like how much you hope for them to get into the school, make sure it's positive, make sure it's encouraging, because the last thing you want again is for them to freak out during the exam and to become so overwhelmed with stress that it impacts their performance.
So I just want to share. I mean, just like worst case scenario, like let's say so that girl who was crying still got into Hunter, right? So she's fine, right?
Ulti- Ultimately, yes, but like, she still had to step out of the room until she stopped crying, which
So I just want to let you guys know, because I don't really want to waste time, and time is of the essence, and time is money. So let's say the person right next to you just pukes, just throws up all over the table. You know what? Just pinch your nose and keep testing. Like, no matter what happens that day, if you have to smell vomit for the next hour while you take that exam, it's perfectly fine. You'll never have to smell it again. So just keep testing no matter what happens, if it's too cold, if it's too hot, if the person next to you, like whatever is tapping his foot like nonstop, whatever is happening around you, if the light is flickering, I mean, whatever it is in that moment, just keep testing. Do not stop the test, no matter what happens. Let's say you're taking a test and you catch a mistake, like I don't know, there's like an extra E or an extra A, whatever it is, just don't stop that exam. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. The only thing that you can control at that point is your own performance, how focused you are, and how well you do at the exam. If something like that happens, just know that there are adults in the room who will take care of those things. If someone does throw up, it'll be cleaned promptly. Like, they they can all take care of it. Just remind yourself, remind your child to like stay focused. And focus on things that you can control, not the things you can't. Okay. So this is for students, which is to write yourself a letter, a simple journal entry about your emotions before the test. So if you are experiencing significant emotions, significant worries, just write that down on a piece of paper. And that'll help you kind of process what's going on, and it'll help you process uh, how you're feeling and how you could best manage it. You clearly don't want negative emotions coming into the test if you do have them. Again, just focus on what you can control. focus on things that you can change. Just remember that, um, things are in your hands, and what you know at this point is what you know. So you should just do the best with what you have, and that you're a good student, that you tried this whole time, that even if you don't get into Hunter, you still learned something. But your mindset going into the test is like, yeah, like I know a lot. I'm gonna answer a lot of questions. I'm ready. I'm prepared, and I'm gonna do well. So having this positive mindset, again, as long as it's not overly confident, to the point where you're not checking your answers, but having like a good mindset will help you keep the momentum going. Just as you ignore the person like crying next to you, you need to ignore any feelings of doubt, and you just need to just answer everything one question at a time. Um, yes. Here's some example of positive self-talk or positive letter from parents. Um, yes. Okay. So, um, another good tip is to plan where you will meet your friends or parents after the exam ends, or plan where you're going to meet your child. This is great, definitely helped me as well. I remember, again, from my time taking the test, I took it in the Hunter College building on 68th Street. I don't think I've ever been there before in my life prior to the test. And so meeting my mom and my brother after the test was difficult. Like, it was hard to find them, although my mom did tell me which street and which number, or the name of the street and the number. I was bad with directions. I did find them, but it's important to take advantage of clear, simple directions. Look at monuments, look at whatever. There's going to be a large wave of people coming out of that exam, and you don't want to get lost, especially if you are taking the test in Manhattan. So, yeah, just pick something specific, and agree to meet there after the test. Um, oh yeah, and they do give you your cell phone back at the end of the exam, so um, hopefully that will also make things easier. Okay, so some people might be opposed to this stress management tip, because it involves missing school potentially. So the test is on a Friday, and the day before is a Thursday. So on that Thursday, maybe it's a good idea to just take the day off, to just relax, to just review for the test, to just have some downtime, maybe catch up on schoolwork if that is necessary. Just do what you need to do, so that you can get a full night's worth of sleep, so that you're not worried or anxious about anything that happened in school that day. Just because if you think about it, it's one day out of the school year that you're missing in exchange for potentially, what, 6 years of probably the best public school education that New York City has to offer. So I think I did that actually. I took the day off before, but I was also sick. So uh, um not really great, but what I can say is that I am happy that I took the day off that day. Um, could also pick your child up early from school around noon, but at that point, I think it's fine to just miss school, relax a bit. Um, don't put more stress on yourself than you have to, at least for this one day. Think about the trade-offs. So, next tip, take a relaxing walk the day before the test. That's good. In general, walking helps calm you down. It's good. It's healthy. It clears your mind potentially, and um, also don't want to be a couch potato. You don't want to get too comfortable. Um, it's like what the youth call bed rotting. You don't want to rot before the test. You want to relax, but still stay moderately active. So just walking around is fine. So, um, the next tip is to bring a watch and set it to 12, or so that the test would be from 12 to 3. Honestly, if you have a digital watch, you could probably read it. If you know how to tell time, you could probably do that. I wouldn't rely on the proctors writing down how much time you have left, just because they aren't always consistent. Like they're bored too. They're watching a bunch of kids take a test for 3 hours. They're probably on their phones. So don't rely on them. There is usually a clock in the room, but I wouldn't count on it. Bring your own watch. I recommend, again, if you can read a traditional watch, I would bring a traditional watch. I brought my traditional watch. I certainly did not regret it. And yeah, I think it's also good because I was paranoid. Like you could be paranoid about cheating or something, or it's could be considered an electronic device. Um, so yeah, just a traditional watch should be fine as long as you know how to read said traditional watch. If you do have extended time, make sure that all of those test accommodations are fully in place, and those should be marked on your admission ticket. Uh, by doing everything in advance or by showing up early and having everything confirmed, you're going to be a lot less stressed. So, yeah, that's just everything is in all of these tips are in place to make sure that you are focused, you are calm, and you are ready and prepared to take the test with absolutely no accidents or absolutely no random stressful events the day before or the day of. This is a day where you just need to sit down, take a deep breath, and go through the exam. Yes. So the next tip is to make sure you bubble your answers after every question. Um, that's a good one because some people bank on the fact that they might have extra time at the end to bubble in their exam questions. Honestly, given the length of the test, I would not bank on that. I would just, or what I did was I bubbled into the bubble sheet after each question. And yeah, I didn't like when I took the test, I didn't have time to do the last three math sections. I guessed all like A, because that has the highest chance of yielding something if you just pick one of the same letter as opposed to random. That's another tip. Um, yeah, so let's see. Okay, this piece of advice says to start with the math section. I think it depends on the child. So the way the test is scored is cumulative. So if you get everything right on the reading and maybe half right on the math, depending on how others do, that might be a passing score. If you get everything right on the math and less on reading, that could also work. I would say play to your strengths. You should, at least for myself, I knew I was going to get a certain number of math questions wrong anyway, especially at the end. So I did reading first because that is when I was the most focused and when I was going to get the highest number of correct answers. I just did the test as it was given. Um, but you know, different things work for different people. I would definitely try out this method in the practice. Remember, don't do anything new on the day of the exam. Don't do anything new like during the exam. Just stick to whatever format you know. And while you are preparing, you can try to switch up the order of the sections. So I think if anything, that's a key takeaway. Um, yes. During the reading sections, you are reading for points, not entertainment. So, um, that's also, if you do take the color course or if you do take private lessons, you will get tips as to more specific tips as to how to read the passages because each passage has the same types of questions. But I think that's maybe a bit out of scope for this webinar. But yeah, just come into the mindset that it is a test and that you should be using the strategies that you were taught or that you figured out for yourself during the practice tests. Um, yeah. So this one also says just pick a letter and see which one hasn't been chosen in a while. I'd say that that one is good um, if it's a random question you don't know, but if you're leaving a lot blank at the end, at that point you just pick a letter. It depends. It depends on the situation. Um, if you have three blanks at the end, just fill them all in with the same letter. If you have there's just one question you don't know, then yeah, pick the letter that has been least picked. Um, yeah, don't leave anything blank because there are no deductions for wrong answers. So you know, there's like a 25% chance that you're going to get that point. If you have four questions, like maybe that's 1 point that you would have otherwise not had, just probabilistically. Um, okay, this is the watch again. So it's a digital watch. I use a traditional one just because, I don't know, I was paranoid about electronic devices. Um, yes, no matter what, use the bathroom right before you start the exam. Completely agree. Um, yeah, I think that that one's straightforward. You don't want to waste time during the exam by going to the bathroom. Even if you think you don't have to go, you never know what you have stored. Maybe some people, when they're nervous, don't realize they have to go to the bathroom. Either way, doesn't matter. Make sure you go. Um, and avoid large cups of caffeine or energy drinks or sweet soda. Like that also makes you need to use the bathroom a lot more. And just drink whatever normal amount of water you're used to drinking. Again, don't need any accidents, don't need to waste time going to the bathroom in the middle of the exam. Unless you again absolutely have to. But yeah. Um, we've already been over not drinking caffeine. Okay. Yeah, so the next is layers and comfortable clothing. Don't show up wearing a suit jacket or a collared shirt. Just wear whatever is comfortable and wear layers because it's going to be cold. It's going to be January. It might even be snowing, but inside the building, it could be extremely hot. It could like it's an old building. Maybe the heat is going off. You can't anticipate that. So make sure you have jackets and things that you could like take off depending on the comfort level because it's hard to anticipate what the temperature is in an old building. At the same time, it could also be kind of cold. Maybe the heat isn't working properly as it should. That's why it's important to pack or to wear an extra cardigan or a sweatshirt just in case. Yes, just don't have anything that would distract you during a test. Um, Last year I lived with a roommate. She liked to keep the temperature at 80. That was the most distracting experience I could ever ask for. I had to study in the living room. And then I sorted it with her. But yeah. My point is temperature is a big factor, so make sure to dress appropriately and comfortably. Um, okay. So number 5 is breathe. That includes during a test, that includes before the test. Before the test, if you feel your heart rate rising, if you are nervously tapping your foot waiting online, just stop, take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. Maybe have a phrase that you repeat to yourself, like, it's all good, I learned a lot. Like everything is fine. I learned a lot, you know, because I learned a lot because it emphasizes that you still accomplished something and it emphasizes your effort. And it also reminds you of the stuff that you do know so that you can get more things right in the future. I think it's a good, short, simple phrase. But yeah, as you know, maybe cheesy as it sounds, that definitely helps. During an exam, if you have a hard question, stop, look like at the corner of the paper or something at the page, take a deep breath, in and out, like worst comes to like make an educated guess based off of what you see if you think the problem is really hopeless and just move on. Because when people get things wrong, they usually get things wrong in a row. And when they get things wrong in a row, it's not because they didn't know something, it's because they were nervous. So keep that in mind. Make sure to use the breathing exercises. Just stop, remind yourself that you prepared, that you learned something, and then you move on. And don't dwell on things that you think you got wrong because it's a big test with many questions. You're not expected to get 100%. So as long as you get as many right as possible. And breathing just really helps you calm down and recenter. So, yeah, the Hunter test isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. So, what that means is you just need to prepare a lot in advance, train a lot in advance, and while you're doing it, just remember everything that you've learned thus far. Don't get caught up on any minor setbacks. Just keep your momentum going. Keep your momentum going and remember to breathe and stay calm. So, yes, that concludes just all of the advice, all of the useful advice.
Thank
Uh,
you so much. Thanks for doing this from UPenn, and thanks for letting me know that if I ever were to need a kidney, I'd have one. It's good to know you have to give it up. Anyway, joking aside, I just really want to say this means a lot because you're also in the middle of college final exams. You're very busy yourself, but you still took this hour just to review things to help prospective hunter students and families. It really means a lot that you did this. So thank you, Natalie. And everyone, something really adorable that I like to do very much, those of you who know, is I like to take everybody off mute for a moment. I always have to remember how to do this. So I'm going to unmute everyone. I'm going to count to 3 and we're going to say thank you. Ready, everybody? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. We learned so much. Okay, all the best. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye, everybody.